right, welcome to everyone who's listening. My name's Heather Sanderson, and this is a Majestic Wisdom Podcast. And I'm here today with Mason Hutchison. So welcome, Mason. So
Thank
happy
you.
You can be here.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for pronouncing my last name correctly.
Yes, I was worried about that. Cool.
Yeah.
And Mason and I, so we've only really met over email so far. So this is our first face-to-face virtual interaction, which is very exciting. And I was reading your bio and trying to figure out the words to introduce you properly. And you've done so many interesting things, and we're going to touch on a couple of them today. So I'm excited to hear more about HerbRally and the Art of Frugal Nutrition. But to me, by way of introduction, you're a plant person.
Yeah.
Is that resonates?
Yeah, it really does. It's been a long journey, but I would say at this point, I like plant person more than herbalist. So for me specifically, I have a hard time saying I'm an herbalist, but like you ask my brother, he'll say, Mason, you're an herbalist, but plant person, we'll go with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
I like that distinction actually, because an herbalist kind of, to me, is limiting you to one thing. And there's this connection, it feels like you have with the plants that I'd like to hear more about that is beyond that. So where did this start for you? Did you always know you were a plant person, or is it something that came to you later in life?
Yeah. My brother, again, he has recently brought up this fact of when we were little kids. He's 3 years older than me. He vividly remembers me talking to plants, which I have no recollection of. So that's kind of cool, looking back in hindsight. A lot you could kind of follow the breadcrumbs and see how it all came together. But I would say my introduction into becoming a plant person kind of came from nutrition. So it seemed to me as if herbalism was a natural offshoot of nutrition. So I kind of just fell into it. I really enjoyed, fitness and lifting weights and the nutrition surrounding that culture. And then slowly but surely, from 18 to 19, I became more and more of a hippie. And so I just, I feel as if slowly but surely I became more and more of like I said, a hippie, and naturally that just led to, herbs. And I really enjoyed adaptogens. As you know, as part of my story, if you read my bio, I used to work for Mountain Rose Herbs for 11 years. And so I associated plants as just dried herbs. I loved Hoshu Wu and, Eleuthero and ginseng and all these Chinese herbs. And I associated them as just dried herbs. And then I decided to just kind of go all in, and I took this course called the Columbine School of Botanical Studies. And that's really in Eugene, Oregon. And that's really when I became full-blown plant person, because then I saw that these plants were more than just dried herbs to consume.
Thank you for sharing that. I love that your older brother's there also tapping on your shoulder, it sounds like, and being like, you used to do this. I remember. Yeah. I'm glad you found your way back to what it sounds like was natural in childhood, and found all these different trainings and ways to weave it in through your work as well. And I imagine, but I don't know, so I'm going to ask, is that what set the foundation for HerbRally? And can you talk a bit about what that is and how it started?
Yeah, so HerbRally started essentially as a website that I wanted to see exist in the world, which it started out as a herbalism events website. So as I mentioned, I worked for Mountain Rose Herbs. I was their event coordinator. And so I was like, oh, that'd be cool if there was a website that just tells you what herbalism events are happening around the country. And what I found was there were some doing it here and there, but mostly we're just listing major herb conferences. What I wanted to know about were herbalism events, plant walks, just little lectures happening in these smaller communities. And I couldn't find anything like that. And I I basically just decided, okay, I'm going to do this. I bought the domain HerbRally.com, and then I held on to it probably for like a year. And I just kind of sat with it. I had this idea in my head that it had to be perfect when I launched. And then one day I was just like, no, I have to do this. So I just bought a Squarespace website and I just started listing events,
Wow.
So it really just started out as an events board. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. Because I found out about HerbRally maybe a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
How long has it been around for now?
2015.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And I think I saw it from like an Instagram post.
Okay.
And I was
cool.
like, oh, that looks interesting. And that
Yeah.
attracts me. And so I started to look through all that you have to offer. And from that events posting, it, from the outside looking in, looks like you really have continued to grow from that footing. And now there are people writing about plants that you are posting, and then there's a podcast, and you have this new YouTube channel and clothing, and like it's really looks like it is taking off in ways that it sounds like you didn't expect or think about.
Totally.
What's that been like?
Oh, I'm getting goosebumps. It's surreal. And every time I had a new idea for the website, I'm like, well, there's no one telling me not to do this, so I'm just going to do it. You were referring to the herbal monographs we have.
Right.
And I came to find out that my favorite way to read about plants was like long form description driven by story and personal experience from that particular herbalist. The reference books have their place where you could just read paragraph, and sometimes you need those bite-sized bits of info, but I really liked the long form content. So what I set out to do, and I initially just hired my close friends who also are in the herbal world. I think my first one was that we published was by my friend Nick Moya. He's an herbalist here in Eugene as well. He wrote one on burdock, and sure enough, it's probably like 5 pages in length. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want to read. So I figure other people want to do that too. And slowly but surely over the course of time, I think we have around 70 monographs, and we just keep, adding maybe one per month or so. But what was that your question?
I mean, I love that answer. That's perfect.
Yeah.
I think I love hearing more about how things start. And then it sounds to me like you're planting these seeds and also kind of feeling into where it wants to go and grow. And I like no one was telling me not to.
Yeah.
That's great. I wonder how that's felt.
It's been extremely rewarding, considering I don't really feel like before HerbRally I had anything, I don't want, productive or constructive to put my extra creative energy towards. And so the way I always looked at it was HerbRally is this never ending thing. It's something that I constantly can improve. It's my contribution to the herbal world. I guess it's just fulfilling, I should say. Also just knowing that it's never going to end. I mean, I don't see why it would end, you know what I mean? It's because I love doing this so much. Like I said, I worked at Mountain Rose Herbs. I don't know if I mentioned, I was there for 11 years, constantly working on this behind the scenes. I never saw an end game with HerbRally. It's just, I don't know. It's just fun. So.
Cool. Well,
yeah.
I mean, that comes through to me as someone who reads the newsletter and listens to the podcast, and it's like you're culminating and crafting a space of community for, it's so inclusive, also because there's so many ways to enter. So thank you for doing that. And it sounds like part of what I would call your magic to me. you're offering. And
That resonates.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like you're stepping into it. It feels, because you left Mountain Rose, correct?
I did about 4 or 5 months ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it because even though we're just meeting virtually for the first time, it's like I can, even on screen, I can see the energy of this big offering. And it's huge, really, like as a channel through you, like through your center almost.
I was trying to explain it actually coincidentally to the owner of Mountain Rose Herbs the other day. I was trying to explain it to him that HerbRally really is kind of like the how do I say this? Like my brain downloaded, or my heart and brain downloaded onto the internet. At least one portion of it, that side of it, because you acknowledge the inclusivity or the diversity of content on HerbRally. And really that's been intentional since day one. I was talking about earlier how I struggle with using the word herbalist for myself. I think it's because, well, I don't see clients. But besides that, my mind is always shifting on the way I see the world and the way I understand plants and herbalism and all that. So I never want to just appear as correct or right. So I feel as if everyone has something to contribute to the herbal world. And my main prerequisite is, are you helping people and not hurting people? As long as they're not hurting people, I'm golden, because I can skew on, say, the sciencey side of things or the more quote unquote woo-woo side of things. I like it all, I could vibe with it all. And I could see where each and all of it has its place. So I don't want to be judgmental about someone's other perspective on the way they teach herbalism, because A, I can always learn, and B, like, who's to say I'm right about that? You know what I mean? I guess what it boils down to is just don't hurt people, with the information you're putting out there.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Thank you. Yeah. And because of that, it's like, it feels like a journey from that dried root plant, right? And so now there's this huge diversity of experience, and it came really from that root, but it sounds like wanting to know more.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Very cool.
I was so obsessed with the adaptogens and all the sexy herbs of that time, which, just to mark the time, is probably around 2008, 2009, maybe. Remember, like, when goji berries were a huge thing?
Yes, I do.
That was my jam. They're
Sweet.
great. I'm just saying, Howie and Steven at the Columbine School took me out into the woods, and then I started having these, experiences with plants. So yeah, totally different.
Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I love blending experiences, and also constantly learning and knowing that I don't know anything really. And so it's a pleasure to hear from you and your experience.
Absolutely.
I just want to check, because I did write down some questions just in case. I'm going to make sure that I get to them all. Well, one thing that isn't in my notes actually, but I'm just curious, where did the name HerbRally come from?
Oh man, earlier you were asking me about where HerbRally came from, and I almost included that part in the story. Then I forgot. So it's so funny. I actually put out a poll to some of my closest friends and family what I should call this idea that I had. And I gave them, I remember I had 3 options, something like that, but I vividly remember herbalismevents.com was one of them. And I just thought it was just too bland and too specific. It didn't allow for any sort of growth or change in direction. So I don't know where these things come from sometimes, but HerbRally hit me in the head. And I remember one of my friends said, "Oh, HerbRally, that's great. That actually sounds like it already should be a thing." I was like, okay. And I really liked it too, because of the rally sounds like it has some sort of cause behind it. So yeah, I couldn't tell you actually, other than it just kind of hit me one day when I was just brainstorming. And that's usually how a lot of this works for me. Something hits me, and then I feel sad and depressed if I don't pursue it. So I'm like, I have to do this because otherwise my conscience is just going to keep nagging at me. So
what
yeah.
a great description. Yes, that makes so much sense. And I think, for so many people, it's so easy to stay in those states and to not follow through with the steps or the actions or have the energy or fire or whatever you call it to initiate and start. And it sounds like you keep having that initiation. Go, go, go.
Have you ever done StrengthsFinder or heard about StrengthsFinder?
No. What is that?
It's a book, and it's also a quiz. And basically you ask like, it's one of those personality tests, but basically you answer like 500 questions, and then they kind of tell you what your strengths are. It's been a long time since I've done it, but I actually did it for Mountain Rose Herbs once. And what you're describing was in my top 5 strengths. So I think it's kind of innate in me. But yes, I initiate, like I start. That's
awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And because if you think of like plants and ecosystems, and if we were to understand that we are that too, then everyone has their own way of being and how to work with each other, right? And like, this. And so to me, you're like that, let's get going, Forrest. Come on, let's start. Like, even if something catastrophic has just happened, maybe, or like we got to rebuild, we got to go. I love it.
Yeah. And so in that vein, sometimes our strengths are our weaknesses too. Do you know much about blue Vervain?
I do.
Yeah. So I remember always hearing about the people's experience with skullcap, and I never really was able to feel that skullcap feeling that everyone talked about. And then I remember the first time I tried blue Vervain, and I was like, oh, I wonder if that's what they're talking about. And I don't know exactly the energetics between skullcap versus blue Vervain, but blue Vervain really vibes with me. And so I think it does help tone down that, activator part of me, or initiator, which is really interesting because it only takes a few drops for me, and I'm just, so I think it's good medicine for me.
Sweet. Good ally.
Yeah, totally.
Well, let's talk then about another new project that you have going on, which is this Art of Frugal Nutrition. I love this name. And can you share where this has also come from and what it is?
Yeah. So my bio, when I was working at Mountain Rose Herbs, like when I wrote blog posts and whatnot, I ended it with an enthusiast in the art of frugal nutrition. And I was essentially just combining two things that I really like. I like frugality, personal finance, and nutrition. So it's natural for me to combine these two things. So yeah, people would ask me what that is. What is frugal nutrition? I was like, oh, I really like that name. I wonder if anyone else uses it. Sure enough, there's a blog out there called frugalnutrition.com, and I've perused it. It's great. But then I started feeling a little weird about using the name, and because I don't want to take anyone else's stuff, but I was like, well, I came up with it independently. But then it dawned on me, I was like, oh, I already say the Art of Frugal Nutrition. That seems reasonable. Plus it's like this little course thing versus a full-on blog. I don't know. I didn't feel like I was stepping on their toes. So really, just like HerbRally, this is going to be my outlet for something besides herbalism. I mean, it's peripherally related, and everybody I've had on Art of Frugal Nutrition thus far has been herbalists, and it's probably going to continue to be that way. But yeah, I mean, it's really just a course that I wanted to create to be my outlet for these other passions of mine, if you will.
And what does it consist of? So far, what are the courses and where are they offered?
So yeah, to check it out, it's HerbRally.com/frugal nutrition to learn more. But basically, we call it an ever expanding course. These are all things I just made up, because most courses I see, they're not ever expanding. I don't know, maybe they are, but I've never seen that. So basically, that just means every quarter or so we're going to add a new module. For instance, in February, we're going to go up to Portland and record. Do you know Paul Bergner?
I don't.
So, no. You got to look up Paul Bergner. He's great. Right. He's an amazing herbalist based in Portland, Oregon. His nutrition philosophies, I just love. So we don't even know what he's going to be teaching for the Art of Frugal Nutrition yet. All I know is it's going to be golden. So we're going to go up there and do a module with him. We're releasing one soon with Bevan Claire on, she calls it the Spice Apothecary. So the medicinal value or the nutritional value of common spices in your kitchen. Currently, we have one on dumpster diving with my buddy Guisepi Spadafora. He actually came down here and we did a whole day where we recorded the philosophy, the how-to, the dangers, and then we actually did a live dumpster diving demo at an undisclosed place in Somersville, USA. And then, we have one on fermentation. These are, so the three that we have released so far are dumpster diving, fermentation with Kirsten Shockey, and bone broth with Jade Alessandro Mace. So, but yeah, like I said, it's going to keep being added onto for an indefinite amount of time. Because again, like I don't want it to end. I just want this to be a robust, cool course for people. And then we also made it sliding scale, which felt appropriate. It seemed weird to charge like money when we're trying to teach people how to afford healthy cooking. So yeah, sliding scale slides all the way down to free is what we call it. It slides all the way down to free. And then, yeah, I don't know. I'm just rambling now. So
yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
It seems like it is really in alignment with the offering, and that to me is really important. Like, why would you charge $2,000 for someone to learn how to, like, you know? So it makes sense. I wonder, with that whole offering that is sort of starting to emerge, although it's something you've wanted to do and have thought of for a while, I think, what is it that you're hoping it will bring to the collective or to other people?
Good question. Yeah, so almost like greedily, I want to do it because it's fulfilling to me and because I like to nerd out on this stuff. But yeah, as far as what I want to bring to the collective, I have all these ideas for this course. And then sometimes it dawns on me, other people do not know this. I'm not a natural, I don't consider myself a natural born teacher or anything like that. I'm very kind of inside my head. But then it occurs to me, I'm like, oh, that's right. Other people don't know about this way of doing things. And it would probably be benefit to know about that. For instance, like the whole dumpster diving thing. I remember, so Guisepi came down here a few years ago and we dumpster dove together and he told me all about this. And I'm like, this is mind blowing on so many levels. And I'm like, I want to help popularize this concept more because, for instance, a lot of this information already exists on the internet. So I guess what the contribution that I would be helping with would be to disseminate it in a more clear way or more accessible way, or introduce it to the audience that I already have. So yeah, I guess really it's just to help introduce and make some of these, because a lot of these ideas are just kind of weird. I mean, dumpster diving is inherently weird and countercultural. So yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to help popularize some of these weird ideas I have.
I can see, I mean, I love it when people are having these ideas that are quote unquote weird, but then are actually doing them.
Yeah.
Is there ever a part of you that like wants to filter or questions, or you just ignore that or don't have it?
Oh, I definitely have a filter. By the way, I want to give a shout out to your audience, because you are literally doing the first interview I've ever had on a podcast, which is really cool because I've had a podcast for 5 years and I've never been interviewed or done an interview. So yeah, that's all to like bring it back to your point. Do I have a filter? Yeah, too much of one, to be honest. Like, I want to put myself out there more. I'm naturally a very like, the funny thing is my friends would call me gregarious. Some might call me like charismatic or funny or whatever, but like it's hard for me to put myself out there in the public sphere. Like when I was the events person for Mountain Rose Herbs, I had no problem talking to people in like groups of 1 to 2, 3 to 4 at a time, whatever. But like doing this, it's hard for me. So, but yes, when I hit that crossroads, like with publishing, 2.5 hours worth of content on dumpster diving, I'm like, no, I have to do this. This is something that is calling to me and my heart's telling me I have to do this. So eventually I come around and I do it.
Well, first off, I want to say it's a huge honor to be doing this co-creation with you and creating this podcast episode. And I was surprised to find it was your first. So yeah. I'm glad it aligned, though. I'm glad the timing worked out for whatever reason. And here we are. So thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I told myself when I quit Mountain Rose Herbs, I was like, okay, no more excuses. I have to do these types of things now, because lack of time was a convenient excuse. But yeah, here we are.
Well, I love that, because lack of time, I mean, again, from the outside looking in, there's so many things you have on the go. Mm-hmm. How do you do all of that?
Well, to be quite literal, project management software.
Nice.
Do you use project management software?
I have in the past. I don't anymore, but I have.
For me, I was telling you, I like personal finance and frugality and all that. Like I track all of my money because it like helps me gauge where I'm at. Without a project management software, I would be totally lost. So, but I know what you're talking about. I know what you mean. To be quite honest, after leaving Mountain Rose Herbs, I feel like I have all the time in the world, that's not helpful though.
Well, I wonder, and this is just from listening. I wonder if it's because things you're doing are so engaging. Like, does it feel like effort or time, or it's just different?
I guess at times it does, but I love emailing people. Like it sounds bizarre, but literally every day I'm emailing these people, and I'm like, it's always about some exciting project that I'm working on with them, or I mean, there's certain things that are kind of like the accounting side of things, and certain business things are stressful, I suppose. But most days I get up and I'm pretty stoked about it right now. Because before it was all this stuff was on the side. It was like, 8 to 10 p.m. or sometimes on the weekends or whatever. But yeah, I'm extremely excited about everything we have going on right now. So
and that comes across. It comes across too in your writing and in the pictures and like the posts. And also I want to talk about the cool new clothing.
Oh yeah.
That you have, because it's so awesome. So it sounds like, just from knowing you a little bit now, things happen somewhat like an initiation. Things are like dropping in and you're going with it, and it feels a bit organic. So I'm going to guess it might be similar for the clothing. Is it?
It is. Well, also when I first started HerbRally, back when it was just this little events website, and it's still just a little events website, but I actually did sell hoodies and stuff back then. What I did was I just took old school botanical images that I really liked, and I was like, I want that on a shirt. And I bet someone else might want that on a shirt too. So fortunately now my wife is she's a designer, not necessarily clothing designer, but she's done graphic design and everything for her whole life. So yeah, now I have someone on my team who's fashion savvy. So now I have someone on the team who's, better at it than me. But yeah, that's another thing where it's, it's more just for our fun than anything. But yeah, I love walking around town rocking a dandelion hoodie.
Well, and does it ever feel to you like the plants are working with you or through you to offer these things, or?
In relation to the clothing or in general?
In general.
I would have to think that that's true. I can't explain that, but that definitely resonates.
Cool.
Yeah.
I just thought it was just dropped in to ask.
Totally.
Also because we're going to do a plant spirit reading,
which
as part of the podcast.
I'm like really excited for that.
Cool. Cool.
Do you have one in your mind right now?
I do. Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes. Before we do that though, I wanted to just check and see if there's anything else you wanted to talk about or ask or throw in the cauldron.
No, I think I'm good.
Great, cool.
Yeah.
I think we covered lots of ground. I used to end these and then people afterwards would be like, oh, I really wanted to talk about all this other stuff. And I was like, oh, I should probably ask.
That might come to me the second we hang up.
It's okay.
Yeah.
We can do part 2.
Yeah.
Well, then let's move into this plant spirit reading if you're ready.
I am.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I like to talk a bit about how this kind of works. I've done a lot of study in Ireland, working with the plants and trees and all of the beings with a teacher there whose name is Carol Guyette. And that training focuses a lot on working with the plant spirits and sacred plant medicine. So also includes herbal medicine and the practical, like hands-on stuff, and this whole like consciousness of the plants. So it was interesting because we haven't met, I could feel my rational mind at first being like, this plant. And I was like, no, that's not like, no, that's not the right sort of voice that I'm used to hearing and honoring. That's the one that is more afraid of like making a mistake. So for example, Apple came because you're a creator, and Apple to me is the creator of worlds. And it doesn't mean that Apple isn't perhaps an ally, but I knew it was a voice telling me what to do versus just listening. So when I started to tap into my heart and your energy and what plant might want to come forward to work with you in some way, a totally different image came, and it came as a beautiful star-shaped white flower. And I was then received the message that it's white borage who's coming. Are you familiar with?
I mean, is it borage, but just white?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I don't know anything other than,
cool.
Standard. Yeah.
The standard stuff.
Yeah.
So borage, there's a few things. I'm just going to talk about the spirit a little bit, and then we'll see what resonates. But borage has a lot to do with courage and fortitude and protection. And I've created one medicine with white borage in particular, and that was a flower essence. And through that process of creation, I learned more about sort of the essence and like the subtleness of spirit. And even in that subtlety, there was a lot of strength. And the strength in particular is connected with what I call like divine orchestration, or another word might be synchronicity, but synchronicity through active participation. Mm-hmm. So not just being like, oh, that'll work out over there somehow without me doing anything. Mm-hmm. More like being a channel or being in connection with spirit, or however you want to see it, energy. And that might include also psychic abilities or parts of yourself, and parts of the psyche or psychic parts of the body even that might not be fully realized yet, perhaps.
Okay.
But it's all through this excavation and active participation that Borage is there to help offer protection as someone goes through these explorations. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all vibing with me. Totally.
Okay, cool. Anything you want to speak to or give voice to or ask?
Yeah, I guess first of all, from maybe my too much of being a consumer standpoint, I'm like, do I buy this flower essence? Should I do this? Should I, or am I already exuding this type of energy? So I'm good on that front.
I like that question. Yeah. I mean, to me, it's about having a relationship with the plant. However that comes to you.
Yeah.
All of the above, none of the above, whatever like sparks.
So white borage is a type of borage that I could plant. Mm-hmm. Sweet. I only ask because I'm like, well, I grow, you know, is it blue? I'm colorblind. Is it just blue?
Yeah, usually It's blue. At least in North America, I think it's mostly blue.
I'm very fond of that plant. I guess what I was asking was, is this like some sort of, you know, albino version of the other, or I could just buy a white borage?
You can buy a white borage.
Oh, sweet. Okay. Yeah. I want to do that and spend some time with the plant. But I mean, everything you were saying, I was kind of recalling what we were talking about during the conversation already. I was like, oh, I was kind of displaying that energy as I was, you know, just living my regular life. I have to do these things in the face of adversity. I have to have this courage to just move forward with what's in my heart. And that when you were talking to me about the white borage, I was like, oh, that sounds similar in a lot of ways. So yeah.
And yeah, as you're saying that, what I'm seeing is like an image of you inside the petal, like the 5 petal structure around you. And then like almost like a white shield of energy around you.
Sweet. I'm gonna get my friend. Do you know Jessie Wolfharden?
I know her name. Yeah.
Oh no, Kiva Harden's the wife, and then Jessie's husband. But yes, he creates this fantastic herbal artwork. I'm gonna get him to make me a picture of.
Yeah, of that. I love it. Yes, totally. So an ally that you can call on. However that comes.
A new one that's never particularly spoke to me before. So I'm excited to develop a relationship with that one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So to wrap up, I guess, can you just let us know a bit about where people can find you and find all the goodies that you have expanding and offering and growing all over the place?
HerbRally.com and HerbRally on all the socials. I'm trying to push the YouTube channel. So we're HerbRally on YouTube now as well. We've been doing that for a few months, which perhaps we'll release this video on there too. Yeah, HerbRally everywhere. HerbRally.com.
I like it. Good consistent branding. I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and yourself and your journey with us today. I so appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.